and good evening, and welcome to the Revive FM 94.0 Celebrity Lawyer Show with me, Mahtab Aziz, and a good evening to our special guest this evening, which is a very talented poet, writer, and activist. That's Shahd. And welcome, Shahd, to this evening's program.
Hi, it's such an honor for me. Thank you for having me.
Sure, great to have you. And I think we ought to start perhaps with your an introduction to yourself. I would be very much interested, as my listeners would be, to your early background, where you grew up and where you went to school and all that.
Yeah, sure. Well, my name is Shahd, previously known as Mahnavi.
Ah,
Um, yeah, I was born in Jerusalem, Al Quds, as a Palestinian. I was born in Silwan.
right,
I grew up there, and my father worked for the Palestinian government.
right.
So for me, it was actually the norm, waking up to politics and conflict constantly. For me, I was inspired by my father, watching him fight for the Palestinian cause through his poetry. He's also a published Palestinian poet. So I actually witnessed a lot of injustice and constant discrimination. So I did feel that back home is not really the place for me to make a change.
Right. I mean, if you could if you can break it down, say first your early years, say when you went to primary school, you must have gone, say, what, the age of 4 or 5. You must have started
Yeah,
school.
yeah, well, it was really complicated for me because it was a matter of being protected constantly because of what my dad was doing. He
Mm,
was working with the Palestinian government. So I've been so restricted growing up. It wasn't only the fact that I was Palestinian, oppressed, living in East Jerusalem. It was also that who my father happened to be. So I
right.
had restrictions from the Israeli government as a Palestinian, also restrictions upon me because of my safety.
Right. So in those early ages, as a child, I mean, you must have seen things perhaps that you probably thought, well, what's going on here then?
Yeah, I did, to be honest. I used, because of where my dad's house is located in Silwan, they call it um, the Israeli government now, they call it City of David. So basically, I grew up having Palestinian neighbors all around my father's house, to witnessing from a very young age the screaming of
Mm,
and the cries of Palestinian neighbors being evicted, forcefully evicted from their homes
right.
in the middle of the night. So I have witnessed all of that. We were been very fearful, just wondering when we will be next, and also clashes in the middle of the night,
Right.
Palestinian protesters and
Right.
being shot by
Right.
the settlers. And
So this was all happening in East Jerusalem. You
yeah,
said, right?
yes, yes,
Wasn't
yeah.
West Bank or Southern
No,
Gaza?
I am from Jerusalem, so it's
Mm,
not West Bank.
right.
But still witness, as Palestinians, it's actually harder on us because you cannot really express yourself. You're constant living in fear because you are living among um, settlers, and yeah.
No, I mean, I mentioned West Bank and Gaza because those two areas are the ones that seem to have taken, the prominence in terms of where a lot of human rights abuses have occurred. But most people probably don't know about a place like Jerusalem can also be subjected to the same type of, Israeli policy.
Of course, I mean, as an activist, my family, uh, they've been telling me, please don't speak, don't raise awareness, because we might not see you again. So it's actually you are lacking freedom of speech. Even us Palestinians living in Jerusalem, we are still facing discrimination, and we're still not allowed to speak against the injustice that's
Right.
happening in and everywhere. And there's consequences. I mean, people are getting arrested for having a post about what's happening. So for me, as a Palestinian speaking about this injustice that's happening in Gaza, I'm seeing that I'm against the government. So my position is actually really sensitive, in a sense of I might not be able to return, or I might be arrested.
Right. Well, I mean, apart from the obvious, like human rights abuses that were happening, people being evicted and people being stopped, in your sort of day-to-day, existence at that age. I mean, were you also conscious of that you weren't able to go to certain areas, that you were, had other restrictions on you, you couldn't avail certain services because of your Palestinian origin? At
Yes.
that age, was it apparent at that age as
Oh
well?
yeah. Oh yeah. You're actually given a travel document at
Mm.
that stage. You're born in a place that you feel it's home, but you are told, there you go, that's your travel document. It's basically a document that doesn't take you any further than even the border of Jordan. You'll be lucky to enter. It's literally a document just to tell you that you are a prisoner. You are not really given the identity that you deserve. So you're living in fear. You
Yes.
are in a place that you feel it's your home, but you are reminded daily that's not really your home. You're not entitled to full rights. You're not basically entitled to your right, even healthcare, in the sense of there's a massive division. Palestinians, they go to a different system constantly, and we are always you're fearful, really, and even we're treated differently on checkpoints. You're basically, that's a document to say that really you are either a terrorist or you're just not wanted in this place. So I
Right.
have experienced, in a sense, also it was quite hard to, there's a division where when you know that you're stepping away from, for example, let's say the old city or an area called Salah ad-Din, where it's all Arabs, and then you're going towards Jaffa Street, where you're crossing towards the Israeli side. So I grew up not being able to speak my language because my school, I attended an international, it's called Anglican International School. So this is what helped me discover other nationalities, different ethnicity, religions. It given me the acceptance, because I lacked that from other people. I was never accepted. So because of where the school was located, it was in the Jewish side. I always, when I left the gates of my school, I felt different. I didn't feel like I belong, because I just felt, as a Palestinian, I can't, people shouldn't know I'm Palestinian in that area,
Mm.
because I'm scared. So you are constantly being monitored as a child, even just growing up. That's why I have this passion and this determination that in my heart and soul, that I accept everyone, because I have seen, being with everyone from different nationalities, I've actually experienced that we're all the same. We are actually, but we just lack acceptance. That helped me see. I mean, I took a lot of positivity from all of this,
Mm.
and even, yeah, made me want to grow and make a difference. And I knew I couldn't make it from home.
Right.
There's no
Right.
chance.
Right. So you were actually in a Jewish school, you said, or
No,
sorry,
no,
in a
it's
Jewish area.
It's a British international school. It was a diplomatic international, where all the children from different backgrounds, United Nations, the family, they worked for the United Nations.
I see. Right. Mm.
So you have Muslims, Christians, Jewish. So
Right.
you are actually confronted with so many nationalities
Right.
that you are forced to open dialogue. And I have witnessed even from classmates, for
Mm.
example, um, an American Jew. He was
Right.
my classmate. He
Right.
came to sitting in the library, and he came to me and said, "Shahd, can you just show me where it says Palestine on the map?"
Mm.
And I said, "Look, I am Palestinian." And I
Mm.
was really, I was scared from that question because I know I am Palestinian and I know our history. And I looked at what, at the map, and he said, "Where is it? Do you see it?" I said, "No." He said, "When you see it, you can come and tell me that you are Palestinian."
Right.
And
Mm.
left. So growing up knowing, re- having rejection is very, very difficult. But I cannot speak on behalf of other Palestinians who suffered in the West Bank.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I,
Well,
yeah, I left home at the age of 18.
mhm. Well, I mean, you've explained that you were actually at well, it's sort of like a special school, really. It wasn't like a
Right.
normal school, and the thing is, even being there, which a multicultural place, you experience so much, prejudice and such sort of bad experiences. Just imagine what a purely sort of normal Palestinian school would have been like.
Yeah, but do you know what it is just to be in a normal Palestinian school, because you are all oppressed. You are
Mm.
all the same. You are in the classroom, you're sharing the same injustice and the same um, biases, and you have the same stories. And I actually envied the kids in my international school because they had freedom, they had human rights, they had no clue how it feels to be rejected for your travel document. They were able to travel freely. They had identities. They actually could stand and say, be proud of who they are openly, and be in a sense in a place where they are always welcomed. We never
Right.
felt that way. I mean, I had a really terrible experience that affected me until this day, where we had the school trip, and because I had a Jordanian passport, that still didn't really change my life.
Right.
So we had a school trip, and I was told I need a visa. So the teacher didn't know really the extent of the complication of being a Palestinian. So
Yeah.
all the in my class were able to travel at the airport in Tel Aviv, Ben Gurion, while I packed my bag and I was excited to go on our trip to Spain. I'm at the airport, and the teacher comes back and says, "We are sorry, you can't go on your travel document. We made a mistake. We put the visa on your Jordanian passport."
Mm.
So you can imagine the humiliation at the age of 16, standing there with all your friends, saying
Yes.
bye, turning
Mm.
around, and walking towards the other side for the.
Yes.
It's like,
Yes.
so that really affected me. Just
Yeah.
you know,
That's very sad. Very sad. A very sad incident that you described there, and it must happen, obviously, to a large number of young people in Palestine. So in your primary school, at your primary school, I should say. So, did were you ever like expressing this? Distinction between you and other children? Were you expressing it through artwork or anything? Were you able to at least have a release of all this sort of bad experiences that you were having at the time?
yeah, I used to love singing. I used to create a lot of artwork, and also just trying to discover myself. I always had so many questions, but they were never answered. So
Right.
I always used to ask questions, my father shielding me my mother shielding me. I'm wondering what's going on. And I tried to express myself through understanding why we are different. And also the fact that I was constantly monitored, as I mentioned earlier. It was really hard for me. And I said to my father, I said, I enjoy, they could see that I love writing, and my creativity was keeping me going. I felt at peace. And I explained to my dad, I said, Dad, because where do I fit in? I'm a Palestinian, but I want to be able to grow and thrive. I can't fit in anywhere. I asked him, a school trip to the UK at the age of 17. It was with the school. Luckily, I was granted a visa so that I had no problem on my travel document. I
Right.
came to the UK and I found liberation and something in my heart. I was like, wow, this is the place. I can make a change. And I will never forget that feeling. I was like, Allah giving me this a strength, this experience. I can be free. I can make a change. And it felt so beautiful. I was thinking, do I need to carry my ID everywhere? When I was in London, I was thinking, are they about to stop me? Are they
Yeah.
going to search me? Are they going? And I could be whoever I want to be. And that was so beautiful without having to be labeled. But still, a lot of people didn't understand who is and what we are. They
Right.
don't Palestinians are. It's difficult.
Right. And during those formative years, so did you then discover that you were better at writing and creating prose? Was it during that period, say between the ages of like 13, 14 to, like you said, 17? Was that the time that you really
That's
sort of.
that's the time where I was discovering myself, and I thought I need more time to see where that content leads me. Where does my soul, what's the connection, what's happening, who I am? So I have spent many years discovering what I like to do, what brings me happiness. And when did it start to develop more? When I moved to the UK at the age of 18, I started to work. I started to find, I worked in different industries. I worked for cosmetics, I worked in hospitality. I got married young. And during that time, how life distracts you. I started to run my business. I opened a business in 2013, and I started to work hard raising my children. I have two kids. My eldest is 16 and
Oh,
my daughter is 11. So
oh,
so I spent many years. I actually experienced a different form of injustice, unfortunately, still in the UK.
right,
Uh, so this injustice was quite severe.
Thinking
Uh,
about selling or letting your home?
right.
With Maxwell Estates, you don't need to look any further. Well established with over 15 years of experience, Maxwell Estates are
So the,
specialists
the,
in
grem- the
residential
gremlins
sales
have
and lettings. We manage
the
over
gremlins
200
have come in and
properties in
started
and
creating
around
havoc.
Northwest London, keeping our landlords and tenants updated.
Yeah, thank you. There you go. Right, right.
yeah,
So,
and
mm,
I tried to work really hard in running the business for my children.
yeah,
And I started to write, but I didn't really take the whole focus. I was just like, okay, I'm a businesswoman. All right.
right.
And I put my creativity, somehow I paused, I dimmed my creative side.
But had you actually written any poetry in your late teen years? Had you actually started writing by that time, or?
I was writing, yes, I was writing, but in the form, it was lyrics. It
Okay.
was more of a lyrics, music.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I
And
see.
I used to write, and my writing was quite it was poetic, but was more for music, for singing. And I always wrote in my diary. I had a diary from a very young age, the age of 4. So I was
Right.
constantly writing,
Okay.
and
Right.
it. But it's funny how all these years, whatever I've been doing, the truth and who I truly, what makes me alive is within me. It's been
Right.
there all these years, and I've been just trying to find it out
Yes.
outward when it's actually inside you, you know.
Do you still have those diaries from your childhood? Do you still have
Yeah,
them? Or? Oh,
I
I
have.
don't. Okay.
I have many books. I haven't, even back home. I need to. I don't know if when I will be allowed back,
Mm.
but I have a box of. It's as a child, I marked it as secrets,
Right.
my secret
Yes.
box.
Yes.
But
Right.
yeah, I
Yeah.
still.
Well, it could be another Anne Frank diaries, and they're in the making. Right.
Yes, yes. There's a lot
Oh,
of creative work. I
right.
mean, this year
Okay.
I published 2 poetry books this year,
Oh,
and
oh,
uh, it's been a wonderful journey because
yeah.
yeah, I published it was a basically collaboration with an artist. His name is Ragman Jones. He
Okay.
basically done an EP,
Right.
and it was all the profits we decided to give it to
Mm.
Palestinian charities.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Um, so have you actually sort of moved on from writing lyrics to actual poetry now? You're doing mainly
Yes,
poetry now. Right. Right.
I actually just published another poetry book yesterday.
Yeah. Wow.
That one is really personal to me because it's called
Mhm.
Re-Embroidered. And
Mm.
that one is just my journey through facing injustice to liberation to freedom. And it contains over 70 poems.
Wow. Right.
It,
That's a lot. Yeah.
yeah, it contains quite a lot.
Mm.
Um, so it contains, yeah, and sorry, 70 pages.
Oh, right.
70, not
Okay.
so, yeah. So and that one, so yeah, and I'm currently working on my fictional novella.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So
Good. That's something to look forward to. Definitely.
yes, yes,
um,
definitely.
did you want to just give us a selection of a couple of your poems while you're there? Yeah.
I can. Would you like me to recite
Yes.
one?
Yeah. If you can please. Yeah.
This
Yes.
one to me. So I always say we have to remain hopeful.
Yes.
So hold hope as day awakes.
Right.
Hope in the sunshine as day awakes. Hope in the sunset as twilight takes. Hope in the waking of a brand new morn. Hope in the eyes of someone you adore. Hope in the loved ones as they lay buried in peace. Hope in the children running, playing after the seas. Hope in the world as solidarity rises. Hope in believing, united we go marching. Hope in humanity as voices awake. Hope in a future where love's embrace takes. Thank you.
Right. Excellent. That's really good. Really good. I think it just encapsulates, the feelings and thoughts of those Palestinians who have been subjected to, well, what people would say would be an apartheid state, and all their rights really, trodden over. And we sincerely hope that things can change, and that hope is not, wasted. Um, okay. Now, did you always stay in Jerusalem when you were in Palestine, or did you move to other areas? Or
No, but I used to travel to Ramallah, to Bethlehem. We used to go, but in order to go, basically it's a different world. It's a prison within a prison, really,
right?
because there's holes and you have to drive past the checkpoint, and yeah, it's it's a complete different world.
Mm.
I and it you can tell, obviously. You can, when you travel, if you hopefully you'll get to go one day and see. Right now it's completely everywhere is just destroyed right now. Even Ramallah in the West Bank, they're not the same. It's dangerous, it's more dangerous. But I always lived in Jerusalem, and for me, it's sad. It saddens me that
Yeah.
I might never be allowed to go back home. It really does. Just because as a humanitarian, I always believe never be fearful to speak the truth. And we are not, what I am standing for is the truth. So for me, I have no regrets. In fact, I have so much content within myself, and I am grateful that I have a platform that I can share
Yes.
my story and represent my people and amplify their voices. So it's an honor for me to be able to do that. And if it means away from home, that's absolutely fine.
Right. So you mentioned that you came to the UK when you were 17.
18.
Oh, sorry, 18. Right, 18. And did you go back again, then come back again, or did you stay on here, or?
I went for visits. I went back home, and I stayed, because I visited my father and my mom, and I went summer holiday. Then I didn't feel like I belonged ever since I moved to the UK. I just felt you just don't feel like you are a human when you're there.
Right, right.
You the minute you enter Tel Aviv, you just feel like you're a disgrace. It's that feeling of, who am I? Am I worth living even?
Yes, yes.
And you are carrying that burden with you, that you are just you just a body without, you just deserve to die. And this is the feeling you are given, and they try their best, the security, to
Yeah.
make you hate coming back. It just, the point where they just torture you for hours, asking you to take off your shoes over and over and over again, and to check your bag over and over and over again for 5 hours, and then you're
Yes.
stamped a different sticker color on your travel document, and it's like a color, and there's a different queue for the Palestinians. So
Yeah.
it been a tough journey, but I just believe there will be a change, because Palestinian. It's unfortunate that the conflict seem endless, but
Yeah.
I genuinely believe there's a global solidarity at the
Right.
moment.
Sure. On that very positive note, we're going to go to a short break now, Shahd. We'll be back in a few minutes, but absolutely fascinating what you've been telling us. And do stay with us. We'll be back after the break. Thank you.
We provide a full range of accountancy and taxation services, including annual and management accounts, self-assessment,
Revive FM 94.0. On the radio, on your mobile, and online.
And welcome back to the Mahtab Aziz Celebrity Lawyer Show, and with our special guest, Shahd Mahnavi. So far, we have had a great program where we have heard from direct experience from Shahd as to how things were during her infancy, during her teen years, and when she came to the UK, she noticed such a great difference in terms of how she felt as a human being. I mean, if we contrast the two societies, I'm sure that we can begin to appreciate and recognize how suffocated and how oppressed the Palestinian people are. What we take for granted over here, is something which is cannot be taken for granted. Where Palestinians are prevented from having certain amenities, they're prevented from going to certain areas, and even their own travel documents, which permit their travel. Everything is controlled. So, Shahd, so getting back to that question of liberation, so we say, is that something which is that feeling that you felt when you came here to the UK?
Yeah, that was a wonderful feeling, to be able to express yourself and not constantly asking you, so you are from Jerusalem, are you a Palestinian or an Israeli? It was horrible, constantly when you say I'm from Jerusalem.
Yes.
And it just felt I can be anyone. I can be anything and anyone. And I chose to be myself, my true full potential, the person I always wanted to be, but I wasn't given the opportunity to be, because there would be consequences to that. So it felt beautiful, wonderful. But also, even though I was in London, there was still that feeling of we're still not accepted as Palestinians. There was still that within, dragged down. I was dragging it everywhere I go, that feeling. Because even my experience in London, I had also, when I expressed who I am and my background to certain people, they would throw that question at me. They're like, okay, so you live in Jerusalem, you Palestinian, and it was like, yes. And then I would see they immediately change with me. It was different. It was still there was some sort of division, but wasn't as bad because.
Oh, yeah. Seem to have lost Shahd there. I'm sure our technical wizards will get that rectified. I think so far we've heard a very realistic account of the experiences of a Palestinian person living in Palestine. And here we are back again. Sorry. Right.
Yes, and like I was saying, I still experienced that. Everywhere I went, I felt different, and I've been affected from childhood, feeling rejected, and also I have lost my my travel document. Even I have lost my full rights.
Right. Yes,
Also, I'm not allowed. Yeah, when I enter, I only enter on my British passport, because as soon as they found out I have a full-fledged passport, They took my travel document. It's ridiculous. And
So how does it work? So you managed to come out of Palestine, Israel. You managed to come out, and on that, was it like a temporary sort of travel document you had, or
I
was it?
had I had travel document, and that just gives you basically it just doesn't give you all the rights as a full-fledged passport. So it's actually giving you some rights in a sense. Yes, I had a visa on it.
Right.
I was allowed to live in the UK.
Yes.
But also, once I get a different passport, an actual passport that respects us as humans,
Yeah.
automatically that travel document get provoked. So
Right.
so when I went back to my country, to Tel Aviv airport, they found out I have a passport, a British passport. Immediately at the airport security, they just removed all my rights, even
Really?
if I didn't have any. They just completely said, you're not allowed healthcare, you're not allowed to, this is not your homeland. And now to prove my status, I have to live there for over 5 years.
Right. So their rules are really, really strict and stringent, and basically, preventing Palestinian people from really, well, as you know, what happened after the Nakba was that those Palestinians weren't allowed to come back anyway, and so that policy seems to have extended right up till now, even to those like yourself who've gone out for temporarily, but they've made it very difficult for you to come back.
That's the plan. I mean, as you're aware, it's easy for a Jewish person in America to get citizenship at the age of 16 and goes to Jerusalem and just say, hey, this is home, and they've given full rights. But for me, born and raised there, and it's my home, it hurts to know that there is no return, a possibility, no return. I don't have an identity there, really. My family at the moment, they live there. They had to apply for an Israeli passport because they have no choice. They want security. They want to be able to come and visit me, because that was the purpose for them to come and visit me. So, but at this stage, it's just impossible to actually belong there as a Palestinian. Just impossible. And even if you belong there, your rights are limited. Also, your posts are restricted. My family, they don't like any of my posts. They don't comment because and I am really careful with my work because of my family's safety. So I have to take everything in consideration. Have to think that even though I'm representing the truth and advocating for women's rights and peace, but at the same time, I have to think there is all my family there, all of them, and their safety means the world to me.
Right. So, I mean, thank you very much for that. That's really clear, and really brings across the difficulties Palestinian would face in terms of getting a national identity. But in terms of okay, so supposing someone, I mean, how difficult is it to get an Israeli passport for a Palestinian?
Ooh, very difficult.
Right.
You basically, it took my mom 6 years.
Right.
To put a solicitor, and you have to go through interviews. But currently, I think it is even harder because you have to prove a lot. You have to do a lot of interviews, like I mentioned earlier, and I remember my family really struggling to get it. But to be honest, you have no choice. You have to get some sort of documentation, you need some freedom. We are hungry for liberation. We are a nation of we haven't even lived. I can't speak on behalf of Palestinians in Gaza, but I do speak to them every day. I speak to women in Gaza currently are in the war, and I see how they are so resilient, and they are warriors, and they're trying to find hope in everything, in their own plight.
Right.
That gives inspiration, and that keeps us going, really, because I speak to them and I realize these are stories that need to be shared, and it's very unfortunate that many of those innocent Palestinian people had to die for the world to see who we are and how injustice the world have been to us.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, you mentioned earlier that you managed to get a Jordanian passport. Is that an avenue that's open to quite a few Palestinians, or not really?
Not really, because my father has a Jordanian passport.
Right.
Many years ago, he had some ties. What they used to do years ago, give Palestinians Jordanian passport, but also that's not really the same as a person who is born and a resident in Jordan. So it's still not really beneficial as well. So
right.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's easy to get out of Israel, but not easy to come back again. I think that's probably the policy, is just to encourage people to go, but then sort of bar them from coming back.
Yeah. I mean, it just seems to me that it's been very difficult. It's been so difficult for me to go back. Even when I go back, I wasn't really as active. I was quite quiet, just doing just working on different projects, and it was already difficult. You can imagine what will happen to me if I go now. So it is quite worrying, and a lot of my family and friends are telling me, don't even think about it. A lot of them, even though they just said, don't think about it, don't come back, and that is quite hurtful. That's quite sad, because that's my roots, that's home.
Yes. Well, I mean, you managed to get your British passport. Looks like fairly sort of fairly easily. So but obviously when you went to Israel, that didn't really mean much. In fact, it was more of a negative than a positive, it appears.
To be honest, British passport or not, you're just Palestinian. You go there and they look at your passport and that's it. They're like, okay, so you are from Jerusalem.
Yes.
And they passport, and they have all the answers, but they still ask me the same answers. And who's your dad? Where do you live? What are you doing? Oh, what you do? It's like, these type of questions just to kind of humiliate you. Just like, they know who I am. They know where I am visiting. And it's just constant questions that makes you doubt yourself and constantly thinking. And also, they make sure that you don't have your phone on you, so you don't record anything.
Yes,
they say, give me your phone, and then they just look at you and they pretend they're making different phone calls, and you're just watching thinking, haven't you just scanned my shoes for like times already? Haven't you gone through my belongings? Haven't you? And you keep your stickers different colors, just stop piling on top of your passport. You pass 3-4 different securities. Each sticker is like thicker than the other. It's like a warning. It's like they could see it from distance. And the sad part, they look at me and they're like, because to them I don't look like an ordinary Palestinian Muslim, because not headscarf, and so when they smile at me and they're like, oh, they greet me and with respect. The minute they look down at my passport and read my name and basically Palestinian, that's it. I'm just Yeah.
Yes, yes. I have a very good sort of Palestinian friend of mine, and he always describes to me how whenever he goes back, he expects to be singled out. He expects to be taken to the side and asked extra, like a lot more questions, and asked to explain himself and all. He says he's got used to it now. He can't really can't really change anything. He just got used to it. He just sort of accepts it really, and this is a very concerning thing that that going back to going back to your country of origin, you have to be subjected to these really grilling and disturbing and annoying type of questioning. But hopefully, it will change. Hopefully, very soon. In terms of your political involvement, because you said that basically your father was already involved. Was he involved with? The being in Jerusalem? So which
My father had a magazine. It's called Al Auda. It means
right,
return. My father, that basically that office was created for, it was journalism. So my dad was the CEO of the Palestinian base, basically, for all the journalists worldwide, Arab, Palestinian, and
right,
he was publishing magazines that raised awareness about the Palestinian plight, about the news. So basically, back then, he was allowed to have this office. Even it was in Salah ad-Din. It's a place in Jerusalem, but it was closed down. I think it was closed down in the 80s, and my dad opened it again. And so my father was a very vocal. He always supported the Palestinian cause, but he done it in such a subtle way where he didn't have enemies.
right,
The type of way he humanitarian. He spoke about justice, and through poetry, he used to, the way, I'm inspired by him. I could see
right,
that he did it through poetry, like our other Palestinian poets, that they remained resilient through art.
right,
And my father, he used that platform, and I watched him constantly. And he was working with the late Palestinian president, Yasser Arafat.
right.
So there was literally, I don't think I've actually experienced safety at all. Not like I mentioned, due to my father and due to where we lived, and I just hated being there because it was horrible being. That's the daughter of so and so, and even it really had people follow me at times. I used to see, outside of school, I had people follow me, and my father had threats.
Right.
So it wasn't a very. I never had a steady, calm childhood,
Yes.
and it just felt that was normal. It really felt this is what life meant to be.
Right, right. Well, I mean, in a two-state solution, which has been discussed before, East Jerusalem is well, it's hoped that East Jerusalem would be the capital of Palestine. What are your thoughts on that aspect? That East Jerusalem.
It's so complicated because the settlements are increasing in size, and a lot of the Palestinians have forcefully evacuated their homes. And it's very unfortunate. I don't want to sound pessimistic, but it doesn't really give me, I can't see that vision happening, because it seems a lot of the areas where a lot of the areas, they don't belong to Palestinians anymore. The lands, a lot, and they're shrinking. We are shrinking. And every day I'm speaking to my family, they're just saying to us a lot, it's just they feel hopeless, and it's unfortunate. That's why I think there's a bigger problem out there. It's what's happening in Gaza. That is just, it shows the extent of of the inhumane that's being carried out, killing innocent children, innocent families. That's within itself gives you a bigger picture of their plan, to what they're willing to do for Palestinians in East Jerusalem. So I don't think these people, they quite know what humanity or justice or fairness means. So it's really hard to even discuss that at the moment, because the bigger problem is in Gaza and what the world have been watching.
Yes. I mean, I have seen videos of Jewish schools where children appear to be actively sort of, shall we say, influenced to not have good views of Palestinians. Is that something which, as you were growing up, that you noticed that it seemed to be inculcated into Jewish children? Or?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, it was actually much better growing up. It's much worse right now, because I speak to people back home, and my friend, her daughter, she attends a school with the Jewish children, and she told me that they believe so sincerely that the world hates them, and they do believe that they don't even see that children are dying in Gaza. They don't watch that. They don't see that side. They don't see what you and I have been watching. They only been told that they're trying to get rid of the terrorists in Gaza, and they're trying, but the world hates them. So you're being shielded. These children have no clue. They don't know the truth. They think everyone is out to get them.
Right.
So
So I think part of the solution of the problem would be better education of a lot of the Israelis themselves, because they seem to have a very warped, a very polarized view of Palestinians, which obviously they've come to accept through their educational system and the way that the media probably portrays things. I imagine the media is obviously not free to broadcast what they want. So
yeah, also, in religion has a big part as well, because you are told in your religion that this is your right, and you need to fight for your homeland. So there's one side is saying we will win, and this is what we're meant to have, and the other side saying we will win. So I don't think there is no meeting point, because they already think this is our promised land. So when you have that implemented in you from a young age, and also they have this programs where they bring everyone all over the world back to Israel. They say, this is your homeland, come here. I mean, it's really difficult to break that.
Yes. Well, on that point of which you quite validly mentioned about the opposing religious views and standpoints. So on that point, of course, I have come across certain Orthodox Jews, in fact, who are against that idea of them having a promised homeland, because what they're saying is that we're not supposed to have a homeland. We're supposed to, the Torah says that they will forever be dispersed across the world. So there is that counter view even amongst within Jewish society.
But they are being silenced. These type of views, which I know respectively, that they do exist, and they do believe there is peace, there should be peace, but they are not allowed. They're still faced with with consequences.
Yes.
I even watched videos of the Israeli army hitting them.
Yes.
They go on the street protesting against what's happening in Gaza. They're not allowed. They get beaten and they will get locked in prison. And so really, the truth and freedom of speech doesn't exist in their system.
Right.
And it's unfortunate because I have experienced two sides. That is what inspires me, is finding out, sitting with the opposite, finding how they feel. I welcome it, I accept it, but at the same time, it's interesting because you realize this misinformation and also greed. It is greed. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we're really running out of time. Actually, it's been absolutely fascinating having you on the show. We must have you back again. I'm sure we haven't had enough of your information. I'm sure you've got a lot more interesting things to tell.
It's so lovely. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's an honor.
Sure.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Sure. That's been a great pleasure. And you just remind us of your book so that at least my listeners can go running out to the bookshop tomorrow morning and get it, or even order it from Amazon.
You know what? I've actually had help with a good friend of mine. He done the self-publishing for me with Lulu.
Right.
At the moment, because I just want to share the message with the world. They can find my books on Lulu. They can follow me on Instagram and they can click on the link, or they can Google my name, Shahd Mahnavi White Shoes.
Yes.
It's called White Shoes because it's just the color white and peace. And because we were watching shoes in Gaza, missing shoes of children that died and the blood stained with blood. So we thought white shoes, and that book goes to charity. They can find it on Lulu. And yesterday I have published another book, re-embroidered. They can find it also on Lulu under my name.
Right, that's great, and I'm sure both of those works contain genuine, heartfelt, passionate, revelations about your own personal experiences, and there must be a great read, and I look forward to reading them myself. In fact,
thank you. Definitely, I'll give it to you next time I see you.
Thank you. Very kind of you, Shahd. And it's been absolutely great to have you on the show, and thank you very much. And I'm sure we'll want you back again because the things you say are just so interesting. So we look forward to that. Thank you.
It's an honor for me. Have a lovely evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And
Bye.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Well, that's all for today. Thank you to all our listeners and viewers. This is the Celebrity Lawyer Show. Mahtab Aziz signing off. Until next time, have a good evening.